You're listening to The Adventuring Party, talking about gaming the Irish way. Cade Mila Vulture, you son of a gun.
Welcome to the party. I'm Owen.
I'm Dave.
And I'm, once again, the unkillable warlord Scarr. You may have cut my spine into 3 pieces and thrown me in a lava pit last time, but I'm back! Don't ask how.
And Tin Hut. It's General List 7 this time, where we dip into a grab bag of topics. Actually,
Yeah.
it's not just General List 7, because we had a reader question, or a listener question even, come in, and we decided to have a bit of a chat about it, following on from our excellent little piece on site-based adventures. Listener and friend of the show and occasional contributor Zowaseed had a few questions about it, and he sent us a pipe message, which kind of boiled down to what in a site-based adventure shouldn't it not be trying to the players go along, they're told by an NPC where to go, then they go to another adventure and they're told by an NPC where to go, and they should just keep going places and being told to go somewhere else. Your princess is in a different castle, get going, keep going along, when in reality it should be a lot more organic than that. And I immediately thought of a few examples of where it's done well in some different games. The first one I would think of is The Enemy Within. Now, it's mild spoilers from The Enemy Within, but there's a sequence at the start of Mistaken Identity where you find a dead body in the road, and the dead body in question looks exactly like you, or like one of you, and they have a letter on them saying they were going to collect a vast inheritance.
I mean, that's a bit of a lure for your average, party.
And rather than say, just get in the cart and go to Bogenhafen, alright? The party go, you know what we could do? We could go to Bogenhafen and pretend to be this guy. Get a bunch of money. And that immediately puts them where you want them to go, to this adventure, which will be based on a site, what some would refer to as a site-based adventure. And vitally, you haven't had to tell them to do it. They decided on their own. Now, is there possible they will decide not to go? Yes, it's possible, but I don't think it. If there's any, if there's any even mild cooperation in them, they'll go along with this, because they think, oh man, that sounds like a good idea. Let's go there. Rather than going, oh no, we're not doing this. We're going up to the Grey Mountains with Prince Hans von Tasselnick. Arrive in Altdorf. He's already left. Okay, we go after him. He's 2 weeks ahead of you. There's no boats.
Yeah.
How about yourselves? Anything that jumps out at you as a good example of a site-based adventure?
I mean, I've recently been going through a whole bunch of classic dungeons in my World's Without Number campaign, and got to see several different layouts of fun dungeon play. And I think one of the vital elements of is like there's the element of player driven exploration, and what's in here I think is a very important thing. Is like people, if you're going to a proper site-based adventure, there has to be a sense of different parts of the site will be give different benefits and risks, and you know
whether dungeon levels or city districts,
or political shenanigans or what have you. Like there has to be the sense that going here, you maybe not know exactly what you're going to get, but you can have you have an expectation that different parts of the dungeon will have different things to do. The site will have exploring the site, whether it be a dungeon, a city, a political situation, as you can call it a site in certain respects. That the act of exploring the site itself is in essence its own reward. It will provide interesting plots. It will provide treasure. It will provide opportunities for role play. It will provide intellectually stimulating things to try to figure out. All these types of things. That is the promise I think that scientific adventures have to have. And yeah, I think this is, I think, the crux of the issue is we go from a objective based, you are going to X and doing Y, and as a result will be Z. You're moving to a more exploring. You have this situation. It's a site. It's a castle. It's an inheritance. It's a city with a mayor election coming up. There's something here, and exploring the possibility space of this will create game. And say, you will have a fun gaming time, tooling around with the different pieces of the site, and it is motivated by what you're interested in. Like, you have the situation where exploration goes in and fun comes out, and different flavors of fun is the important element.
Yeah, I can't help but think of things like the city state of the Invincible Overlord, like great big cities, not like with lots of interesting stuff going on and colorful characters in a like somewhat harsh and prone to violence environment, perfect for your average player group.
Yeah, and like all kinds of different, you can zoom in really hard on like one peasant's hut and like how many gold pieces does he have hidden in his behind his bed, versus this bar just happens to have a whole bunch of high level adventures in it. Maybe you could trick them into doing something fun for you. It's just designed to be filled. Things like this are designed to be filled with not only generic content, but also this bit's a bit weird. This the barmaids are all orcs here. What's up with that? The mayor of this town is talking about banning wool. Why is that the thing? I may be pulling certain random examples, but the idea is if you go to any different part of the city, look into any particular building, there'll be something there. It might not be staggeringly unique, but it'll be something you found. Like, you went into that house, you found that there was secretly a ghoul in the basement, and it's just across the road from the Ghoul Hater Society. Maybe there's something you can do there. I do think, yeah, that is one of the ideas of getting away from what we call like an event-based game, where you get into town or into the Castle Malevolence, and this happens and you respond to it, and this happens and you respond to it, and then these things happen and you respond to those, and it very often will end up following a daisy chain of various expository figures trying to make sure that you hit every single interesting point in this in this setting that the writer or GM has set up. And one of the things I think comes to mind is, have you ever played a Fallout game? How different it is between if you just follow the main quest versus if you just wander off into the woods.
Yeah,
I think that's.
I mean, there's like the speed runs could be very fun to watch.
Yeah, but even like if you're just going through normally, you're following the main quest and you're doing side quests. There are huge chunks of the map, even in the older. Like there are optional locations in the older Fallouts, aren't there, Dave?
Could you repeat the question?
Like, is there like places that you don't actually have to go to complete Fallout?
Oh yeah, no, you can. In the first Fallout game, there's like 2 locations like where you absolutely have to visit to finish the game, but
yeah,
like a lot of stuff's optional.
Yeah. Like there's a through line through, but like if you know what you're doing, you can just skip 90% of it by walking over here, tripping over some power armor, and then commando raiding the final boss's thing with some overpowered weapons. And that's one way to do it. Or you can follow the rules and do all the quests. Pick up side quests, or you could like literally scrape the map and find like entire chunks. Like Fallout 3, there's like the western third of the map, I think, is not touched by any quest whatsoever, and there's all kinds of stuff there, including hidden weapons on top of mountains, a weird dark expanse where there's two tribes of ants fighting as Bethesda tries to figure out why their goblin subsystem from Oblivion didn't work, and they were trying to do it again in this one corner of Fallout 3.
Giant ants or regular sized ants? Because you might notice this. Yeah, you might notice the smaller ones.
Yeah, but yeah, like I think that's the thing about a site is like it really builds into the player motivation coming out of, well, what's here? What am I interested in? Go over here. Oh, there's this, there's this, there's this. Maybe you'll try going further in this direction. Maybe we'll really, really, really hyper focus on the mystery of this stone statue with a face in it. Like, is this a secret vault or is it just a fancy picture on the wall? This kind of stuff. And that's, I think, the big advantage of site-based adventure. But in the interest of balance, I guess, I would like to possibly address the downside of a site-based adventure, because we've probably made them seem really interesting. And so we've used examples, stuff like Fallout and the Elder Scrolls games. Do you ever get to that section in Skyrim, and you're in a Skyrim dungeon, and you've beaten all the main baddies, but you still feel, well, I need to go to every nook and cranny in this dungeon to double check if I left any pots or urns behind, because each one has like 3 gold pieces and alchemy component in it, and I need to scrape the dungeon for each of those. That, I think, could be one of the downsides of a site-based adventure, is the compulsion to complete it, as it were, to make sure that you've extracted maximum value out of it, well past the point where it necessarily has interesting or good gameplay in it. And also, like, much like a lot of old school ideas like open game tables and sandbox play, there's a certain point where a site-based venture will start morphing into an event-based thing as you start pissing off factions or unleashing demonic horrors because you pressed the stone column with a face in it with the wrong ruby, and so on like this. A site-based adventure is very interesting, but it's also kind of by itself finite, and therefore there's going to come a point where the GM will have to say, guys, maybe it'd be better for you to stop poking around here and move on somewhere else. And that could be where all of a sudden the specter of railroading can come in, when we're actually just trying to make people get away from the tepid, uninteresting thing and move on to the next site. And I think, like, this is again one of those things they didn't have a problem with in the very, very start of the game, because Gygax infamously said that you should never start a dungeon that doesn't have at least 6 levels deep, each of like 50 loops.
Yeah.
Well, the solution to people completing the content in level 1 is to make 3 more sub levels and various teleporters around the dungeon to get to and from them. One of them turns you inside out. We won't tell you which one.
Oh.
But that's sort of the thing, is like sites are interesting, but they are a chunk of content, and once you've explored enough of the content of a thing, it doesn't necessarily translate to next play, or if it does, it might start looking very much like you've just suddenly gone into a set of events, even if you've technically they're better than just GM throwing plot craft block at you, because you set them up, you kill the Goblin King, you unleash the demon, therefore they're your plot events that you set in motion, but it's still you're sort of not doomed, but I think it's very likely you end up with your site turning into a big an objective, a final reason to be here. An X to do Y will appear as you explore, I guess is where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of some other ones where they do a good job of kind of organically letting you discover, putting a bunch of information in front of the players and taking the risk of them going wrong. But in exchange, they're making decisions about where to go.
Yeah,
I
meaningful
remember
decisions.
in Complete Masks of Nyarlathotep, the campaign, again, very mild spoilers for it, but the start, you're kind of faced with, you find a friend dead, and you get a bunch over the course of the first adventure where you're tracking down who killed him. You find evidence of a global conspiracy and locations around the world where stuff's going on, and you're given the open option to tackle those nodes in whatever order you want. Now, there are definitely nodes I would tackle last, and I, in fact, told my players, "Hey, do that one last," but just for a variety of reasons, do that one last. But they got to go around and do whatever order they wanted. Yeah, they did it in mostly the order you'd expect, but not totally. And so that gives them a lot more agency about what they're doing, because they're picking where to go, and they get to pick up clues or don't pick up clues and go to the right location or not. Now, it's an investigator game, so it's not like ridiculously hard to find the clues, but they got there, and I think that's important in a site-based game where you get to make a choice about where to go. It's not just, all right, let's go to the next adventure node in the map. Let's click on the map to go next place. What place is flashing on the map? Click on that, we go there. Give them a bit of choice about where to go, and they get them to figure it out themselves. This is where we need to go, and that's cool when you do that.
Yeah. It's not what we're saying that linearity is bad, or that all event-based games are linear. It's just that when you have like a site, a place to go, or places to go, a situation to explore, you're going to get. You're probably more likely to get some real player investment, because they are choosing. Well, we do this next. We prioritize. We think about it. We think about, like, what are we best equipped for? What are we most interested in? And these decisions are what drive engagement. But it doesn't necessarily mean that another way of play is necessarily going to be always inferior. It's just, if you're really looking to get the players to really invest in the setup you've got, then a setup that rewards exploration, like a dungeon or an interesting town of weirdos and factions. These are things that players can study, get invested in, and that translates into interesting gameplay most of the time. All right, what up next? I believe there was a thing that I left on Generalist 7, which came up in our recent episode on fantasy superheroes. That was the problem of the fantasy supervillain. The eternal problem of the guy who shows up, and he's going to be a recurring villain. He's going to show up every couple of things to taunt the players and tell them that their major successes are meaningless, trivial to him. And then the players, level 1, they come up with some system of tripping him. It's like, oh no! It turns out in this RPG, tripping means you can't use any of your amazing powers. And then they just choke him out and throw him in jail or something silly like that. Or more likely, they just got to roll 20s and all their crit dice and kill him, because you only gave him 200 hit points, you fool. And this is one of those problems that you can solve. Like, if you really want, you could say, "Oh, this is a lich," or it's a Death Knight, or it's a wizard with a million clones, or it's a ghost that possesses different people. But that can't always be the thing. And people, even in their lower level, grittier adventures, they still want a bad guy to show up a couple of times to really get people to hate on him. But it doesn't quite work out that way, does it?
No, like players mostly kill bad guys. If they annoy them at all, they just kill them.
Like Shade, you may recall games you ran yourself where players got very keen on killing off NPCs before they could have a stab at recurring.
I've had a few of those, yeah. Poor Scythe Marty, his whole all he wanted to do is look fabulous and work to bring draconic apocalypse upon the world, but the hoops I had to go through so that he survived more than one combat round. And is there a particular one from Tolan game where that speaks out to you?
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of a ninja, I believe.
Oh, there's a few ninjas who, didn't quite, because like ninjas are one of those things. It's like they have perfect stealth unless the players roll 3 exploding perception dice and get 27 to spot their spicy 9 stealth, and then you discover a ninja that does not have a perfect thing in a sneak attack. It actually just sort of folds like a blanket very quickly. This is a recurring problem. I don't expect my ninjas to survive for long these days. I've learned my lesson.
But like NPCs, like I try not to get too attached to them if in my games.
Yeah, but that's sort of the thing. It's like you want to be developing this relationship between the party and their nemesis, but the mechanics. I mean, there's a million reasons why it doesn't work. It's like
players are not sufficiently punished for putting bodies in the ground. That's what it comes down to. Killing enemies is the smart thing to do if it never backfires on you. And it'll feel like you're punishing players by doing it, but it's the only way to make them somewhat hesitant to kill people. If you want a recurring bad guy, you have to sometimes make it a problem that you kill them. Now, you may feel, that's a bit punitive, isn't it? No, not necessarily. If I was writing Batman, I would be very fed up to see why doesn't someone just kill the Joker, right? And what I would do is I would have a storyline where someone badly injures the Joker to the point where the Joker is in a coma and he's nearly dead, and there's people talking about maybe we should pull the plug and everything like that. And then the Joker separates from his body and becomes a ghost because it's the DC universe, and you can become a ghost. And then the Joker goes around possessing people. So now you have a Joker that you can't kill, and it's just buzzing around, possessing people, and making them do Joker stuff all the time. I would reenact Fallen the film with the Joker.
Good inspiration.
And then everyone would be like, okay, so let's not kill the Joker. At the end of the story, you basically get the Joker out of his coma, and you're joking, let's not kill the Joker. That would suck. That would suck super hard. And that's an example of putting some consequences and teeth on killing people. If you make it too easy to kill, like if you kill a mob boss, there should be consequences because he probably is a boss.
Yeah.
And if someone whacks a mob boss, it's like, who whacked him? A bunch of, kids from the thing? Okay, well, take them out. We can't have that happening.
Yeah.
The whole protection racket on criminality,
Yeah, I think protection racket is a very good way of putting it, is that people don't generally think hard enough. I think we've covered this before in things of similar things about violence, is that because we have these sort of situations where, the player party are the only ones who can save the day, we then empower them to use their amazing violence powers to solve all our problems, because violence is so much easier to mechanize than, thinking through your problems and solving societal issues, etc., etc.
It's direct, and if done properly, your problems won't be problems anymore. At least in theory.
Yes, but that it doesn't come into account how different groups are interconnected.
It doesn't.
You kill one set of orcs, you've started a blood feud with their orc clan, and now you are talking about, do we have to go to war against these orcs about this, or can we play some kind of blood price? But there's the and then he turns around. Well, the villain is one of the nobility. Well, obviously, we'll just break into his house and kill him. He probably only has a few level 3 guards. We'll have no problem. And then the GM has to come, well, actually, he's a level 37 wizard. And this is like, well, if he's level 37 wizard, why does he need a pack of goblins and a couple of assassins to do all his dirty work? Why can't he just cause bad things to happen over and over on a daily basis like we do? Because you've set up the premise of the players as the necessary violence authority to come in and solve problems. You've thus said you either have to depower the actual powers that be to make sure that there's a reason that they don't cause the solve all the problems at the dungeon, and then, or you have to really, really give them motivation to not help the peasants. And is it like you get some really weird things where, like, oh no, we cannot possibly stop these 3 goblins in a hole in the ground. But as soon as you go up to the mayor's office to explain to him why he should stop raising taxes, and you accidentally stab 5 of his guards, all of a sudden, well, Jesus, now he has 5th level wizards with arrest spells for days. Why didn't he use those to stop the goblins? And I feel like the point I'm getting to is, like, you have to think deeply about what your plot hooks, more than just, oh, that's a convenient way for adventure to happen. People don't use violence as a solution to all problems for good reason, and you kind of have to set those reasons into your setting. And villains get away with things because villains have set up the system so that it's hard to get rid of them, that they are essential in many ways, or at least they appear to be, or people believe they are. And that's a really frustrating thing to have to deal with. Welcome to real life.
Well, yeah, look, I mean, I think making more consequence on killing somebody, especially someone important you want to position as a repeated bad guy, is a good idea, because it makes them think twice about just, we'll just kill them and move on with our lives, And
it's not that we're saying that there's no solution. But it should be like effort.
Okay, we've got to kill him. We've got to make sure no one knows we did it.
Yeah, well,
then it becomes more of a thing, and you've got to interact with because that's what the GM wants. If the GM has created a bad guy with a big backstory, they want you to interact because they think he's cool or evil, or you'll feel more satisfaction if you understand who he is when you beat him. And immediately killing him, it's like, oh, well, that's work down the Swanee. Now, you can always pull out his identical twin brother in the next town or whatever, but it's a good idea to have a bad guy they can actually get some time to actually grow to dislike for more than just the other reasons, and be like, you know what? I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to get him really good. He's a jerk. Someone needs to take him down, and nobody's taking him down because it's too hard to take him down, and it's too dangerous to take him down. I guess we're going to have to do it. We can't just do it the regular way, and there's an opportunity to kind of explain to people that, okay, you can't just kill someone important like that. If they're very important, you can't just whack them. There's reasons why people don't do it in real life, and there's reasons why you don't do it in your fantasy game sometimes. And it's about Like, the GM doesn't want the bad guy to win, but he wants the bad guy to give you enough of a fight so that when he does go down, you feel like you've accomplished something.
If it's,
By the way, if you're a GM who wants your bad guys to win, you have infinite might. With that, even the greatest dullard would eventually prove victorious. There's nothing achieved by beating the players. It's really easy, you know?
he has more hit points than there are grains of sand.
Yeah.
He is the rocks of the eternal shore. Crash against him and be broken. You know, you don't need to do that. But what you should be doing is making it a little more difficult. Sometimes, and a lot of the time, to keep a bad guy alive, you don't reveal who the bad guy is. And you want them to meet the bad guy, get to know him, get to hate him. And
a whispered name in the darkness.
Yeah, but you also want to talk to him and he say stuff to you. You'd be like, "Woo!" And the other problem with the GM there is the GM has to be quicker witted than all the players, which can be tricky. You know, which can be very, very tricky.
Your wit can be very fast flowing, those things, and often the chance to be witty is often enough for people to just turn your interesting, eloquent villain into a chance for them to throw zingers back at him infinitely. An interesting inversion might be to have a powerful villain who's actually something of a dullard and doesn't get any of your cool jokes, and then you have to explain them to the villain, and that'll make that might change the tone somewhat. But yeah, like, we're not saying that like every villain has to be this massively deep backstory thing, but like, if you are looking to have that recurring villain thing, and of course there are, any number of fantasy versions, like they are a ghost, or they get cloned, or quantum immortality, they come back from a time when you didn't kill them, or there are methods are always possible, but like if you can also get the same thing by doing some narrative work too. And, again, it's one of those situations where it's not that the GM necessarily didn't do that. It's that they didn't realize they needed to do that. They just came up with the villain and then were blindsided by the fact, hey, let's just, throw Tanglefoot bags out so he can't move, and then break his call shot to his hands so he can't cast spells, and he's done. So it's a surprise that can often upset a GM far more than the lost opportunity. It's like, I thought we had something going here, and now it turns out we don't. Which is why you should probably leverage lieutenants and other things. You can get an awful lot of thing out of having your organization just having the right tone at the top, and there's nothing wrong with a couple of middle managers on the way to your CEO of doom and misery.
Oh yeah.
All right, time for one more.
Yeah, quickly. I got the Arkham Horror role-playing game. Now, if you don't know the Arkham Horror as sort of pseudo setting / game line, it was originally came out of Avalon Hill as a board game. Then it was totally redesigned and re-implemented by FFG as Arkham Horror 2nd Edition, a very well-regarded game. And then it was further refined to Arkham Horror 3rd Edition, a game called Eldritch Horror, and it became kind of their sort of generic Cthulhu-y setting, which is mostly set in standard Call of Cthulhu-esque 1920s, but there's a couple of differences. They're mostly pretty minor. They're kind of sort of pseudo setting information stuff. And they've got a new rule set out, and they had a starter set, and the core book is out. So I had the starter set, and the starter set is pretty cool. It's weird. It adapts the first Arkham Horror LCG adventure as an RPG adventure.
See, that's interesting, because I've seen people playing the LCG and the essentially a campaign of card games, successive card games, as they, gain more different cards for their decks and build insanity cards as they do horrible things, and they fight and they solve mysteries, and that, using cards as a way to represent all the stuff. I think it's really neat. But
pure co-op as well. Pure co-op. No adversarial play. Love it. It's a great game. I really love it as a game. The LCG. The old board game, Arkham Horror 2nd Edition, really good board game. Eldritch Horror, better in a lot of ways. Globe-trotting rather than just set in Arkham. Arkham Horror 3rd Edition, a bad board game, I think.
I see.
They made it way too difficult. It's just annoyingly difficult, not in a good way. It's just like every turn I have to do the same two things or we lose, and I can't actually do anything to expand my strategy, really. I just have to hope I luck-sack into some good, consistently good rolling, or just keep going. Not great. But I was looking at this because we're mostly an RPG podcast, and I was looking at the way they've done their system. So the system is your character has a dice pool of 6 dice, 66s.
Mm-hmm.
And characters have 8 skills, basically.
Okay.
It's about 8. And the skills are rated from 5 levels, 6 plus, 5 plus, 4 plus, 3 plus, and 2 plus. When you want to make a test, you pick up one or more of your dice and you roll. If you get a single success, you succeed. Now, there are hard tests and very difficult tests which require 2 and 3 successes, respectively, but that's it. However, when you spend those dice from your pool, until the end of the scene, those dice are gone. So you can do a limited amount in the scene before time advances.
Oh.
So everybody will be like, okay, I got presence of 5 plus, but I'm not sure I'm going to do a lot more. So I'm going to have a go and see if I can convince this guy I'm going to pick up 4 dice and roll them.
Mm-hmm.
And what? I have 2 dice left. I don't know. I'm going to wait to see if I need to use them at all. And otherwise, when it ends, scene ends. Okay, time moves on. You're on to the next thing. So if you're at a dinner party, you can go, right, guys, you got your dice pool. This scene ends. When the scene ends, it's the dinner party's over. So you're like, okay, we're running out of dice here, so we've got to start being a little... So there's a certain amount of everyone sharing spotlight time. And everyone... You can't do everything. You got to make kind of choices about what you're doing. And if the scenes are constructed right, it means you got to be kind of, okay, I'm going to do this. Oh, I didn't make it. Oh, can someone else have a go now? I can try again, but I'm running on dice, and I want to hold on 1 or 2 just in case. And one of the things they do is you want to hold on to dice for reactions. Because sometimes someone will try and convince you to do something, and you're like, okay, I can roll my resolve here to not do that. But I'm out of dice, so I guess I'm being made do that. Uh-oh. Shouldn't have put myself in that position. And then in combat, instead of once per scene, the dice refresh every round. But there's additional things to this. If you want to do anything like move, stand up, open or close a door, that's a simple action. That costs a single dice. Otherwise, you're doing a complex action. You pick up and roll dice. So I'm going, I want to attack somebody. Okay, I'm going to use my melee combat skill, and I'm going to roll 3 dice. And if I get a hit, I hit and I deal damage. And then, but my opponent, if they have a dice left, can go, well, I was going to spend a reaction to block that. I'm going to discard a dice, and I'm going to roll. I'm going to spend a dice, I'm going to roll. And if I succeed, I block the attack. So, and when you take damage, your dice pool goes down. So your dice is also your health.
Oh, dear.
So as you take damage, your dice go away. Now, at any time, you can overstrain yourself. You go, right, I'm overstraining. I refill my dice pool. And at the end of the turn, I roll in the injury table. Otherwise, I've gone down or whatever else. Now, the way horror works is it changes your dice from regular dice to horror dice. So they change from green dice to black dice. And horror dice work normally, but when you use them, if you roll a 1, you got to roll in the trauma table, and the trauma table is not terribly nice. So it's built in a bunch of kind of resource management around the dice pool as kind of little mini game you're playing within the RPG to do stuff. And you're going to be like, I don't want to throw all my dice at this. I want to throw 2 or 3 dice at this. Because I don't want to. I want to save some resources in case I need to, dodge an attack, or I want to basically do something else, resist this mental effect that's trying to drive me, trying to take control of my mind. I want to dodge that explosion. So it's a useful one that you often don't want to spend all your dice. You want to hold on to 1 or 2.
Yeah,
and that's nice as a different sort of way to do a game. And I love seeing someone being actually quite creative about how it's called the dynamic pool system, or DPS. That's their thing for that. And I'm reading through it, and I quite like the look of this. The first adventure looks grand. The starter box one's a lovely starter box. It's got handouts, it's got maps, it's got gatefold character sheets. It's everything I want in a starter set.
Right.
So I'm going to give it a go at some point, maybe over the Christmas.
Nice.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I do really like that idea of just a very different way of presenting, character abilities as something often very powerful, because you just need to get a success to succeed in most things. But you have to really invest and to think about what else is going to happen. Is someone going to attempt to hoodwink you during this cool party you're having? And of course you have this literal smorgasbord of different characters to interact with, presumably each with their own challenges to overcome. And the player spotlight becomes a real important cool thing. I like that. I know there's going to be some people who are just going to say, think of the artificiality of it all. It's just like, but the idea of I just found out one clue. Surely I can follow that up immediately, right? It's like, no, you don't have any dice left. You've
spent your time and effort doing that. That's what you spent your time doing, But I spent all 6 dice rolling. Yeah, that's your time. You spent ages doing it.
Yeah, some people don't have a good sense of. There's only so much you can do in this given sort of situation. You don't get infinite chances to look to poke at information before you start just looking pushy and rude. And aren't you a 1920s high society person? Surely you would realize that you're not supposed to push, ask further questions at this point. That would be uncouth.
Yeah. And so the way that there's kind of 8 different they're not classes exactly, they're archetypes. And the Guardian, for example, is the tough melee guy, the defender of people. And the way that works is anyone can get their skills up to 4+, any of the skills. But that's as far as it goes. A Guardian can get melee combat, presence, and resolve to 3+. And they can get athletics to 2+. Now, they're not starting there, but they can get them that high. And then they additionally have knacks they can take, a list of kind of abilities that do dice fixing and help you make your dice more advantage, or do some different stuff with it. And they've got tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 ones, increasing in power. And you can get different numbers. You get initially 4 from the tier 1s, and the tier 2s, then you get 3, then 3 from the tier 3s, and 2 from the tier 4s. So there's a bunch of extra, and some of them are specific to an archetype, and some of them are specific to just kind of more generic ones that are, this makes me good at agility test, or this makes me good at this other test. And there's other cool stuff in it in terms of when you get, because it's more of a pulpy game. There's more fighting the monsters in it than a lot of Cthulhu. So it's got a lot more advancement in it. But as you get up in XP, if you get to really high levels of XP, you can effectively multi-class at 125 XP, which is quite a lot of XP in this session. You can multi-class and then basically go, I can take a different archetype, a second archetype. Or you can stay focused on an archetype, and either way, your dice pool goes up from 6 to 7. And that feels like that'll feel like a really big power upgrade after playing 20 or 30 sessions. You're like, oh man, this is good.
Yeah, that. I do like the idea of actually using the different things you can use dice for as a way to modulate the much like the flow of an experience. I do think that's really neat. And yeah, dice manipulation, you can do a lot of that. And again, it comes from the people who designed the LCG, which similarly uses cards and all the different things you do with cards, putting them in and out of decks, slowly changing decks over time to create that cool storytelling experience.
Weirdly, it comes from Asmodee, Edge Entertainment, which is the one they gave all their RPG stuff to. So it is actually developed by, I think, the American team rather than the Spanish team. From looking at the design team on it, the other cool thing is the book comes with an adventure in it.
Mm-hmm. See previous episode.
That they're talking about, and it looks quite cool. A lot of cool handouts. They're taking advantage of the fact that the game has tons of art because of the LCG already, and just using that.
Yeah.
Draw on that art, might as well.
And for example, like the scenes have different outcomes that you're going to do, and kind of different endings that are going to happen based on which choices you make in it. So, much like the CCG, so it's not like, oh, this is a standard finish here. No, it's quite different depending on what you do.
Damn. Sounds very neat.
Yeah.
I'll have to have a look at it. I might need another pulp investigation game to round out my things. Can't do Savage Worlds for everything.
It's true. Artie. Well, that's kind of our grab bag of stuff, our spinner rack of concepts, some thing from General of 7,
Mm-hmm.
and some reader feedback, and a random book I'm reading at the moment. So
Yeah.
it gets your feel of stuff.
Plenty there.
Absolutely.
Well, if you'd like to nominate a random number for us to take from one of our general lists and waste your valuable time on what we find there, you can hit us up on our social media or just start shouting numbers randomly on our Discord. But for now, this party's over.
Thank you for listening to The Adventuring Party. Join us on our Discord server, where we keep the party going after hours. Otherwise, you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, or you can email the hosts at party@theadventuringparty.net. The Adventuring Party is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike version 3 license. But you probably knew that already. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and look forward to seeing you back here next week. Goodbye.